Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to another episode of the Husker Big Red Podcast. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me, as always, is Danny Gillette. And we're here back on another Monday. It wasn't a victory Monday. It was another painful night for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but we're here to break it all down. And before we really actually get into this matchup, we should remind you guys to make sure to do us a favor and hit the subscribe button. Make sure that if you haven't done that already, we would really appreciate that. Get into the comments section, hitting the like button. Tell your other Husker fans where to find our content. But back to the issue at hand, Danny. What are your thoughts? Are you over the loss on Saturday night? Do you still have the hangover?
Yeah, I mean, because quite honestly, we're playing with our third string quarterback. We're playing with a makeshift offensive line. We're playing with a running back room that is extremely banged up, and I think Emmett Johnson is a part of that running back room. We'll have to see what Matt Rule says in his press conference today, but I was actually, just not to go off on a little rant here or whatever, but I was, asking around what happened to Emmett Johnson, and the consensus was that he got hurt during a play where, I think he hit somebody or fell awkwardly on the ground or something, and that's why we saw more of Anthony Grant. I'm not sure it was a coach's decision to play Anthony Grant more so much as an injury decision, because after we saw Emmett for, those first couple series, we never saw from him again. So that makes me believe that there's something wrong with Emmett Johnson. And then, of course,
he did run on like the last drive though. He was in the game in the fourth quarter.
He got one carry for like the second half though. So,
well, I just know he had 18. I know he had 18 yards on that one. The last drive, he had a big run.
So I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't know if he's hurt or not.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's an injury there, and I think honestly, my big takeaway here is that I hate to say that we're very close, but we played well even though we're banged up, and I think that Chubba Purdy, I almost said Brock Purdy, I think Chubba Purdy made a strong case to at least be the starting quarterback for spring ball next year. And I understand that there were some offensive power outages, but at the same time, I think that if he can continue to improve, I think he can, make a case to be at least a starting quarterback for spring ball. And if there isn't an urgent need at the quarterback position with Chubba's improved play, then that's a bonus as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Chubba played okay, but I didn't see anything that led me to, Nebraska needs a transfer quarterback big time. I mean, he played okay, but there was he pulls the ball. I mean, there were so many times where he didn't even give, he just pulled the ball down, and it was like, he ran one time for 50 yards. He thought he was going to be able to do it a bunch of times. And I mean, he did run a little bit, but he just pulled the ball down way too much. I did think that he played better, obviously, and it made me wonder why he didn't play earlier this season. I mean, I get that he's been hurt, but it's like, if he was, why wasn't he in the game earlier last week, if he could play this? So I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't think that, I mean, I think he could compete for the job, but I think that it would be a massive mistake to go into spring ball with Chubba Purdy or anybody on this roster as your starting quarterback in the spring ball. You've got to find a legitimate quarterback, like not somebody that you hope can be. Like, we can't just sit here and hope that Chubba Purdy can learn how to read a defense by next fall. We just can't do that. I mean, they already did that with Jeff Sims. They have got to find somebody that that can actually like play the position and that's fully proven it. I mean, if Chubba, comes along and wins the job, that's great, but they cannot, rely on Chubba Purdy or anybody in this roster. That's just my opinion. And I mean, it's just, I mean, the game on Saturday, it's like I said before I mean, Matt Rule, yeah, I mean, we talked about, this program needed some competency, and Matt Rule, I'm sad to say, just has not brought it. And in terms of the game day management, I mean, they're 0-4 in games decided by 7 points or less. The clock management was terrible Saturday night. It was terrible the week before. The situations weren't even similar. And the fact that Matt Rule is, saying, well, I got criticized, so that's why I decided. I mean, it's like, come on, dude, what are you doing? The the criticisms of fans and people like that you and I say should never calculate into your decision making whatsoever. And I think that it clearly did on Saturday night, and he made another huge mistake, and that's 2 weeks in a row that Matt Rule put his team in a bad position because he doesn't understand how to manage the game or can't handle the pressure of managing a game. I'm not really sure, but the last 2 weeks have not been, it was Scott Frost territory like the last 2 weeks all over again.
I mean, I do think they hear the noise, and I do think there is a lot of pressure, and I do think that plays a part in it. I really, really do, and I understand. The big time college football coach, you should be able to handle it, but we've been getting louder and louder and louder. I mean, look at us last week. We were not quiet, and the players see it on social media and things like that. So I do think there are some doubts starting to creep in, and it's crazy how many fans are overreacting in terms of not just this season, but in terms of this roster. And I understand the clock management was not where it needed to be, and that was very questionable, especially on the final drive where they didn't really use any of their timeouts until the back half. But at the same time, I do think there are some severe limitations. Now, if these trends continue into next season, then we have a real issue. But right now, I'm not overly worried about it, partly just because we don't have the horses right now. And I understand clock management.
We got better horses than Northwestern, they're bowling. We got better horses than Georgia Tech, and they're bowling. So, I mean, I don't know. There's no excuse for this program not this. There's enough talent on this team to go to a bowl game. That's all I'm going to say.
Not a quarterback, and that's the most important position that you need to go to a bowl game.
I mean, Northwestern got there. Like, that's all I'm saying. If Northwestern,
yeah, and they have better quarterbacks than we are. They have better quarterbacks than we do at this point. Like, I mean, I understand that we made Northwestern look silly, but if you remember that game, that was pretty much on our defense. We won that game because of defense, as is true for about, I'd say, 95% of our wins. The only win that I could say that our offense helped out was Louisiana Tech. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get that, but I mean, whose job is it to get? I mean, Matt Rule's it's his job to find a quarterback. Northwestern's their quarterback was a transfer, so I mean, at the end of the day, like they had the same opportunities that Matt Rule did, and they have a worse roster than Nebraska does. I mean, people were saying they weren't going to win a game in the Big Ten this year, and so I mean, like I get it, I get this team, but
they had the overall foundation. I mean, yes, Pat Fitzgerald was gone, but Northwestern had a better built foundation than Nebraska did.
I mean,
and I'm not making excuses for Matt Rule, but at the same time, like their Northwestern, record or not, in terms of just over the years, has always had a solid foundation of players, and that foundation started with Pat Fitzgerald. And Braun, he didn't inherit a good situation, but the foundation was built there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I can agree with that, but Nebraska's had more talent than Northwestern. There's never been a single season that Northwestern has more talent than Nebraska. Like, you'll never convince me of that. You'll never convince me that Northwestern right now has a better roster than Nebraska. They don't. Even with all the injuries, they don't. And Matt Rule just has not gotten the most out of this team. And there's just, I mean, that doesn't mean that he can't be successful, but there's just, I mean, you look at, this team is leading college football in turnovers by a pretty wide margin. That's not solid fundamental football. That's not competency. They've been terrible in the fourth quarter. They haven't beaten a single team with a winning record. I mean, it's like, there's not a lot for me to look at and say, I mean, yeah, the defense has been better.
Although the defense is starting to leak too as well a little bit. I'm noticing some holes there too.
Well, they can't close out games. 10-point lead against Minnesota. Blew it. I mean, they can't close out games. So, I mean,
the quarterback, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just, there's nothing. I mean, they're really looking at this team. There's nothing tangible sitting here 1 year later where I'm like, yeah, we're in the exact same spot that we were a year ago. And I haven't seen a single thing from Matt Rule in the last month of the season that, I mean, if Matt Rule is better than Scott Frost, he'll win this game on Friday. He has to win this game on Friday. I think that this might be, I mean, it's a huge game. I'm not saying that like he can't, turn this thing around. But losing season after starting 5-3, like I don't know if they're going to be able to. I don't know if he's going to be able to turn this thing around if he doesn't win this game on Friday. That's how important I think it is, honestly.
So then, what are we gonna do? Fire another coach and have somebody else come in if he can't turn this thing around? I mean,
you can't just have a losing coach. I mean, what are you going to do if he doesn't get this team to a bowl game next year? He's on the hot seat. I mean, that's just the way it works. And if he doesn't get this team a winning season in 3 years, he's gone. I mean, that's just the way. That's the way this game works. And you can't pay a guy $10 million a year to have losing seasons. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And either you win. I mean, it's a results-based business, and he knows that as well as anybody. He talked about that all offseason. So either you win games or you get your ass fired. That's how it works. So, I mean, I don't want him to go. I want him to be successful. I want him to win this game on Friday. But if you don't win this game on Friday and you don't find a quarterback in the transfer portal, I'm not sure you're going to go bowling next year. And then, yeah, he is going to be on the hot seat. I mean, there's just no way around it.
That's fair. And I do think if things don't improve next season, he'll be on the hot seat. But I mean, calling for his head after year one, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but I've seen all over Twitter and stuff like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think he's going to take the Texas A&M job. And I'm not sure about Tony White, but what I will say is that I think this defense still has a lot of work to do, and one of the things that got beat really badly on Saturday was the quarterback draw play. And, this defensive unit is still good, but you've seen as the competition continues to get better, there are some cracks in this unit. So I'm almost kind of hoping that, this makes Tony White stay another year, but who the heck knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to, I think the one, honestly,
Marcus Satterfield needs a demotion, and I understand.
Well, Marcus Satterfield maybe, or Ed Foley, because the special teams have been god awful. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's a reason we lost that game. Brian Buschini, 19-yard punt, 0 punt return yardage. We could have blocked a punt, but the guy doesn't lay out for it. You miss a field goal. I mean, I'm not saying that he needs to be fired, but he needs some criticism because the special teams have not been good.
What has happened to Buschini? Is he hurt?
I have no idea. I'm not sure. Maybe he is hurt, but
he looked like what was the punter we used to have? Barrett Pickering or something? Yeah. Not Barrett Pickering, but the punter we had in the Scott Frost era that was shanking 20-yard punts. He looked like him. I forget what his name was. But
yeah. But, I mean, that first punt was bad, and yeah, he might be hurt, but it's just, and it's not just one thing. I mean,
no.
If you make the field goal, I mean, it's just and that was the thing. The clock management was bad in the first half too. And like, there's just, I mean, yeah, I'll never understand, Chuba Purdy getting the first down and then them just wasting like a minute off.
Yeah, that was very confusing. I'm not sure what was happening there.
And like people are talking about like, oh, we could have had like another shot or two in the end zone. Like, no, man, you could have ran your entire playbook.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
You had a very good chance to run the rest of your offense comfortably if you managed the clock better.
And just like the idea that, I mean, you don't play for overtime, especially on the road, especially when you just blew a 14-point lead. I mean, you had a chance to get out of Dodge, and it was like, I mean, I knew I going into that overtime, I knew we had about a 0% chance of winning that game once it went to overtime. Like, you knew if Wisconsin scored a touchdown, like our only chance was if they held them to a field goal. You knew if they scored a touchdown, we were done. So like as soon as Braylon Allen got that 4th and 1, like I knew it was over. I knew the game was over. And it's sad that you can like see it. In fact, frankly, I knew when they got stopped on that 4th and 1. When they got stopped on that 4th and 1, I was like, here we go again. And then you can just see it. It's like I literally predicted it. It's like I told my friend, I was driving home from an event that I was at, and I told him it was like V. I'm like, this is V for Vendetta. I'm like, V for Vendetta. I'm like that cop guy in V for Vendetta who's like, I can see things happening to the future. And bam, 2 hours later, they lose in overtime. It's like, I can't get over it because it's every single time, no matter who the head coach is, no matter who the players are, same shit. I mean, it's been, like time is a flat circle. Mike Riley must have never have left because the clock management is just as bad as when he was here. The fourth quarter execution is just as bad as when he was here. Like, I just can't deal with it. And I know Matt Rule's getting the brunt of it, but like he was supposed to fix the simple things and he hasn't. And that's frustrating to me.
I mean, in that fourth down play call, that was interesting because it looked like there was supposed to be a fullback block, and the fullback completely missed it. So the defensive line had a free run at, I believe, was it Johnson or Grant? I think it
I
was.
think
I
it
think it
was
might have been
Emmett. I think it was Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating because that was credit to the defense. That was a well mapped out play, and they were able to get the job done. But I mean, that call right there, I mean, that changed the momentum of the game. And then, defensively for us, they couldn't stop that quarterback sneak for anything. Or like not the quarterback sneak, but the quarterback draw play. I could have driven my wheelchair through some of those holes because the defense is nowhere to be found. It, it was absolutely maddening. And it's not like Tanner Mordecai is a speed demon, but he had tons of time to just run right through the middle of the offensive line and get his first downs because they did not game plan for the quarterback draw at all. And they ran it like 7 to 10 times, I would say. But they were completely confused by that play, and they really didn't make any adjustments. I mean, as much as it, and rightfully so, the criticism should fall on Mark Satterfield. Honestly, Tony White, in my opinion, didn't make enough adjustments in this game either. They stopped Braylon Allen for a little bit, especially towards the later part of the game on the I believe it was a third down stop, but by and large they stopped Braylon Allen, but they couldn't stop, Tanner Mordecai running the football, and it was just one thing after another. They didn't really make too many defensive adjustments coming out of the half.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, every game there's a million plays here, there. It seems like with this team, and so yeah, it's frustrating. I'm hoping that they can figure it out on Friday against Iowa. Hopefully, Chuba can have another good game and go get to a bowl game and start to string together some good performances. But they've got to find a way to play 4 quarters of football. I mean, that's one thing with this team that they have really struggled to do. I mean, Minnesota, they played really well for 3 quarters and then they fell apart. And I mean, it seems like that even like the Purdue game, I mean, they dominated Purdue, but they let Purdue back in and they almost lost it. I mean, the same thing with Northwestern. So they've really just got to find a way to, they get off to these really good starts, and then it's like, they still haven't gotten rid of like when's the bad stuff going to happen, and then one bad thing happens, and then this team just completely falls apart. It's like, I mean,
Sounds very familiar.
yeah, it's just, I mean, after that, I mean, you could see it after that 4th down play,
Yeah.
and then Wisconsin got and it was like, like I said, you could see what was going to happen before it even happened. As a Nebraska fan, you knew it. You just knew it. Like, and I sat there. I was happy they went for the 4th and 1. I think they should have gone for it. But yeah, I mean, they didn't get it, and that's where it is. But that's where everything changed, and so that's why you can never take your foot off the gas in this sport ever. And it doesn't matter, that's why, you see teams up like 28-0 and 40, they're trying to like that. And that's why, because, it happened. Like, there's been comebacks and teams, you take your foot off the gas for 1 second and your opponent's right back in the game. And it's just, to me, it was really disheartening because this was a Wisconsin team that basically, was lifeless. We had our foot on their throat, and then we took it off, and we do that all the time. And it's so frustrating to me. And I really, I was really hoping that they would get that, that finishing mindset, or that able to do, and they just haven't been able to do that yet. So, I mean, Friday will be another chance because I think it's going to be another close game. I don't think Iowa is going to blow us out. I think we're going to be right there in the 4th quarter, and it's just going to be, again, can this team finally execute and do the little things that it needs to do to beat somebody like Iowa in this situation? And so we'll see. I mean, I don't have hope. I mean, I do have hope, but it's like it's very guarded hope because I've seen this team do this so many times, and it's almost like, again, it's like I can foresee what at some point Nebraska's probably going to come out and get the lead on Friday. They're probably going to have the lead for most of the goddamn game. Are they going to be able to finish it in the 4th quarter when it really matters? Are they going to be able to execute on offense, on defense, on special teams? Because Iowa will. Iowa will not shoot itself in the foot. Iowa will just sit there, composed as hell, while Nebraska pisses itself and loses the game, because that's basically what's happened for this program the last 7 years. Every time we get in a situation, we just piss our pants and lose. Where it's a big game, we just piss our pants, fumble the ball away, give it to the other team, and go home crying because we lost again. I mean, and that I mean, is there anything wrong with that characterization?
No, and it's interesting that it's not just one coach or, like you said earlier, one group of players. It's been, let's see, 7 years, so 3 coaches and, multiple countless players. It's interesting that it's not a one coach problem, and it's just the weirdest thing to me. It's just the weirdest thing because it's like Nick Saban could come in here and he'd probably have the same problems too. Just something in the water in Lincoln just makes the coaches execute poorly and not find ways to win. I mean, I'm hoping we win Friday. Iowa's not an offensive juggernaut, but their defense is really good. So, I mean, the thing you saw in the Wisconsin game was that after the first quarter, they adjusted to Chubba Purdy a little bit better, and they completely shut him down. And we tried to get things going, but it was also hard to get things going when you lost yards on pretty much every first down play, or didn't gain anything on pretty much every single first down play, and then you were second and long, and then Teddy Prohashka and whoever, I think there was one more, but it was mostly Teddy. 2 false start penalties that were absolute drive killers. And I hate calling out kids, and I hate saying, no, this guy sucks, but I don't know. I can't wait till Teddy goes, and I know that's awful to say, but he's just a massive, massive drive killer. Massive drive killer with false start penalties almost every single time.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and yeah, it's the same same mistakes, same shit, different day. And I
The
mean,
same guys,
yeah, I mean,
pretty
yeah,
much too.
it really is. And that, yeah, when I posted somewhere that, like, because Oklahoma had a tackle that transferred, and someone was like, we don't need a tackle. And it's like, what team have you been watching?
Yeah, we need a tackle badly.
I mean, I know that Bryce Benhart's played well, but I
He
mean,
has,
and
yeah.
and hopefully he'll be back next year. But I mean, we still need a left tackle, man. Like, we need some we need a left tackle. We need to get that. We need to get that JUCO guy that can return, and then we need like an actual return guy, because basically, like, ever since Billy Kemp got hurt, they just gave up the return. I mean, even farther back, since Ramir Johnson got hurt, there's been nothing productive on special teams. It's been horrible, and so it's like, you can't just give up a third of the game and expect that you're going to win. I mean, the coverage units have been good, but the punting and it's just been so. It's all those little things, but I mean, look, at the end of the day in football, the great thing about this sport is you get one chance every Saturday or Friday or whatever to shine, and the narrative sticks with you. But you can change a lot of narratives this Friday for Nebraska. That they can't win close games, can't get to a bowl game, blah blah blah. There's a lot of things that they can change. They just need to freaking nut up and play 4 quarters of good football and just beat these guys. I mean, they did it last year. They could do it. Like, there's no reason that this team can't. I mean, shit, this team could have won the Big Ten West this year. That's what's disappointing to me, is that they've got the ability to do it. They just, for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to put it together. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a 4-quarter game, and I feel like this team is going to battle. These seniors are going to battle. I know that the fans are going to be absolutely, insane for this rivalry game, and I hope beyond hope that they can finally just like break through, because in football you're never as good as you look, and you're never as bad as you look either. So the truth is always somewhere in the middle, and I think that's true for this team, but they just have to find a way to make those winning plays on Friday, and we'll see. It basically comes down to that, because we know that they can do it. I mean, there's no question in my mind that we can beat Iowa. It's just a matter, talent-wise, it's just a matter of, can they really execute? And when things go wrong, when something bad happens in the third quarter, do they have the mental fortitude to keep pushing forward and to win the game? Because that's really the difference.
Well, you have an entire senior class, for example, that doesn't know how to win. And there is something to knowing how to win, and this program hasn't been able to figure it out yet. And you know, these players don't know how to win, and I think honestly that will come with time and experience. But I don't think any of the upperclassmen on the roster will be here by the time that happens. And that's disappointing, but honestly, I think it's true. I think you're going to see, when just looking at this, the 2024 class, assuming everybody stays and signs and whatever, this is a tenure defining recruiting class for this coaching staff. And I think you're going to see a lot of instant playing time, playmakers like Carter Nelson, for example. I could see him playing right away. The wide receiver room is a little bit crowded, but Danny Kalen, for example, I don't think he's going to play right away, but I think he's going to play sooner than we think. Preston Tamua, he could play tomorrow or Friday, honestly, and and his contributions would be welcome. So I think the 2024 class is going to be a tenure defining class for Matt Rule, and I think this 2023 group and the 2024 group, I think these two classes will be the groups that finally figure out how to win football games, because there is something to the fact that this team can't close, and I don't necessarily put it entirely on some of the new players coming in. Granted, it's a team thing, but there is the mental aspect of not being able to close, and it's been a major issue.
Yeah, it has been. Hopefully, I really hope that they can close it out on Saturday. I mean, I really want, all these guys that have never made it to a bowl game, I'm hoping they can finally get the monkey off their back. I mean, that's what this program needs. So, it's been a weird season, man. There has, we had the undefeated October. It's been, there has been ups. There has been ups with this coaching staff. There's been downs too, but hopefully we can just get this last win, and that will make everybody feel better about, things going forward. So, at any rate, before we wrap up here, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Get into the comment section. Let us know what you think, and we'll be back. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we won't be able to come back because we got Thanksgiving holidays. Maybe we'll try to shoot for Friday morning chat, a live chat.
But if not, we're going to certainly have a lot to chat about on Saturday, especially if they lose.
Yeah, but if not, we'll have a live chat Saturday, and we'll either talk about the bowl game, or we'll talk about what is sure to be an interesting offseason if they don't win on Friday.
Or the basketball team, 5-0, and I don't care.
5-0.
People say, they play cupcakes, blah, 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 blah. But you play who's on the schedule, and secondly, even last year's team would have lost some of these early November games. And these early November games, honestly, in terms of record, could make the difference between, let's just say an NIT bid or not. So the fact that they're starting off 5-0, and the Oregon State team they played on Saturday, was pretty good. So, it's good to see the basketball team. I think, if football has us in the doldrums, the basketball team will make for a fun winter, honestly.
And it wasn't the volleyball team.
Volleyball, yeah,
beat Iowa yesterday to win the Big Ten championship. So they have clinched their berth in the NCAA tournament. And who knows, man? They could be. This team looks like a real, has a real chance to end the national championship drought. So it's not all bad. Even the soccer team, the women's soccer team, beat UC Irvine. They're into the Elite Eight. So not everything is going bad right now for Nebraska. Damn it, just get us to a bowl game, please. For the love of God, get to a bowl game on Friday.
I agree. I don't care if it's 3-0 or 2-0 because we scored on a safety. Whatever it is, like this has to be one of the lowest scoring lines in the Big Ten this season. We thought Northwestern Iowa or whatever was bad, but this one, I don't know. This one must be like over 5 points or something ridiculous. But
it's pretty low, but we'll see. As long as Nebraska, as long as they got one more point than Iowa after those 60 minutes, that's all I care about. So hopefully that happens. We'll have a lot of content on HuskerBigRed.com leading up to this game. We'll let you guys know either Friday or Saturday if we're going to do a chat. So thanks again for checking us out and supporting the channel. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.